This is episode 7 or 8?
8.
8? Okay, episode
We've come
8.
so far in so
Oh
little
my
time.
god.
Only took 2 years.
Yep. Slow but good episodes. So today we're gonna do another round of prototyping with generative AI, particularly with ChatGPT. So Mike, what are we working on today?
Yeah, so what I thought we could do is pick up where we left off with the first prototype. So in that one, if you remember and saw that episode, we made the starter of a storm tracker that was based off of NOAA's historical hurricane tracks dashboard. And basically where we got to was we showed a hurricane path. We had some data points along the way that showed the wind speed, the direction, things like that. And we wanted to simulate how quick and easy it was to build a prototype of high fidelity using a real map library and realistic data, all in the browser just based off a little napkin sketch that we had at the start of that. So what I thought we could do is pick up, I actually iterated a couple rounds on this prototype so I can show you what we did and the progress that I made to get from the end of the last episode to the starting point of this one. And then I thought we could add even more features. And the idea here is to show that you can use these tools from project to project to give yourself really nice scaffolding for maybe a kind of a complex prototype idea that you can iterate on and evolve over time.
Nice. Cool. So you're sharing we are looking at your screen right now. We have ChatGPT on one side and then VS Code on the other.
Nice. Yeah, so these are, just to give you the lay of the land here, these are the tools that we'll use to pick up where we left off. So we've got ChatGPT, and I've got a fresh session here, so we can also show that you don't need to have one session, one conversation that you're using with a LLM to make progress. You can feed it the file just from scratch to pick up and solve one particular problem, and carry on from there. And in this case, I'm using VS Code. So I've got all the artifacts that we used in terms of files, I should say, not Claude artifacts. And an image that I added, an icon for a storm. This is actually something that I added at the end of last episode. The index HTML, script JS, and styles that ChatGPT gave us at the end of the first episode. So we'll kind of work back and forth between ChatGPT and VS Code. And just to show you what I did from the last episode, between the last episode and the start of this one, is I left off with just the map that you can zoom in and zoom out. We're using Leaflet as our mapping library here. And we showed that you can just use, I think it took 3 prompts to get to the point here where I had the storm trackers, the dots here that show the severity of the storm, and we turned it to dark mode at the end of last episode. What I added was a cool feature here to be able to drag this time slider from the start to the end of the storm path. You can see the hurricane icon move along its trajectory to the end. And I wanted to do something like this because this, again, is really, really hard to do in a clickable image prototype. Like, I can't even fathom the idea of putting something like this together, but just in a couple prompts, I got from the endpoint that didn't have the actual hurricane path here to this and just a couple extra prompts. And then I also wanted to play with one other idea that if you're a designer, you can maybe, this might resonate with you, where say you're kicking around some hypothetical ideas, like what if we had the hurricane icon spin faster relative to the storm intensity? And this might be a thing where you're just like, you know what? The tools that I have at my disposal are kind of clunky. I can't actually simulate this anyway. Getting an engineer to do this would be putting in a ticket to have them sort of play out this idea. Maybe a stakeholder asked me to do this and I'm trying to push back on it. So this, again, is another great way to just sort of play out an idea and say, like, what would this actually look like if we made the storm spin faster and slower based off of the intensity? So I wanted to add that one in there just for fun. And this is where I got to.
Yeah. I love the fact that things that might seem like nice to haves can just become part of an experiment here really quickly.
Totally. Yeah, maybe some nice to haves are really cheap and easy to do, and maybe some are really complex, but these tools give us a lot of power to be able to play through some of these types of ideas.
Yeah. Cool. So what do you want to what do you want to work on today to extend this?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the first prototyping episode, when we first started to make this hurricane tracker, I was looking, it was middle of hurricane season. I was looking a lot at NOAA's historical hurricane tracks website. And this one's really cool. You can look up any hurricane that they have on record, and you can see, just like in our prototype, the path of the storm. You get some information on rollover, and you can see this cool interaction that happens with this panel on the left that shows you additional information about the storm. So what I thought we could do is maybe not try to copy this exactly, but have this idea of a fixed left panel with data that's displayed about the hurricane. So maybe we've got the hurricane name, and then maybe just a simple table here that shows the data that we currently have in our prototype here. So just to remind people, when I click on a dot here on the hurricane path, we've got the category and the wind speed. So what I was thinking is that we could have that dedicated panel, the sticky panel on the left, and then the name of the hurricane, which I don't even know if I added that to the data set, so we can maybe play with adding that to the data. And then a tabular display of category and wind speeds for these points.
Yep. Yeah, sounds cool. I think we should
Sweet.
just call the hurricane GPT or something.
Hurricane GPT, love it. Cool. So what we have, I copied the outputs of the last session, kept it into the project that we have, Hurricane Tracker in VS Code. Unlike the last episode where Claude gave us everything in one file, it just, if you remember, gave us index.html, and it had the HTML, JavaScript, and CSS all in that one file. ChatGPT decided to give me a slightly different approach, and I don't remember asking it for this, per se, but it gave me 3 different files, which kind of makes things a little bit more succinct to read here, but we have more files to deal with. We've got the index HTML, which is really simple. And then most of the magic is happening in our script here. And then we've got styles.css. So what I thought we could do, these are short enough documents that I think I can actually just take everything here and either copy and paste this into our prompt, or I can take these 2 separate files and feed them in as attachments to ChatGPT, in addition to a prompt that we want to ask it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So like provide it with the files as it is now, so you can have this clean starting point. And then prompt it with the different features, right?
Exactly. Like you've got these 2 source material files to draw from for context. What I want you to do, ChatGPT, is add this left panel with whatever features we want to put in that panel.
Cool. Yeah, let's do it.
Sweet. So what I'm going to do here on my other screen really quick is just pull up the files so that I can drag and drop them into ChatGPT. All right. So we have our Hurricane Tracker file folder, and I'm going to drag and drop in index.html, and I'm going to drag and drop in script.js. And just because I can, I'm going to give it the styles CSS as well. And I don't think it needs our icon.svg. So what we want to do is add in something like this left panel here. So I think what we can do is start with something like, given the files I just shared, I would like to add a feature to this existing prototype. And then we can give it, kind of the spec for our feature set here. So if what we want to do is add a left panel with some tabular data in it here, how do you think is the best way to maybe structure this prompt? Or maybe would you even restructure some of what I've got here?
Well, I was wondering whether we could, if you take a screenshot of the other site, can you attach that screenshot to the prompt? So like
You
yeah.
can.
So yeah, I would do that also. Just
Let's
like
do
take
it.
yeah.
There we go. That's going to be on my desktop over here. So I'm going to pull that over here. We've got our screenshot.
Yep. And then just add it to ChatGPT also.
Whoop, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, unable to load screenshot.
Oh. Interesting.
I guess we'll have to use our words. Maybe there's a limit to the number of files I can add.
Yeah. Okay.
I like that idea though, because that's the first thing that I tried in the first episode. I had a napkin sketch, but I also really wanted it to use this as a reference image, and it did accept that last time. I'm not sure exactly why I got that error.
Cool. So yeah, I guess let's just prompt it and then see in like subsequent messages whether it helps to have an image.
Sounds good.
So let's see.
How maybe should we start this? I want to add an existing feature to this prototype. I'd like a sticky left panel. I don't want to over specify here, but something that's maybe, I'm going to guess that this is like 250 to 300 pixels wide.
Micromanage much?
Yeah, right. Pixel perfect, ChatGPT. Come on.
Yeah.
About 300 pixels wide. That has the name of the hurricane as a title and a table of data that contains the category or the strength of the storm, strength category of the storm. And let me check really quickly to see in our data that it gave us what data we have to work with here. So this is our hurricane data that it made up when we first made this prototype. It gave us this cool little JSON that's got the lat longs, the category, the wind speed, and the date. So what if we had a table that had these three columns: category, wind speed, and date?
Yep.
And a table of data that contains the category, wind speed, and date of the storm. Date of the lat long location of the storm at that time.
Yep.
Is there anything we're missing here? Maybe I liked your idea of in last episode of sort of asking the GPT if it has everything that it needs to get it right. And what we did in the last episode was kind of role played that to just check ourselves to see if there's anything else that we could add to make this, to increase our odds of success.
Yeah. I think maybe like the first thing is like when you say sticky, do you want the panel to be closed, like collapsible or like hidden, or is it just like always on compared to like the other one?
That's a good point. Yeah, like in this one, I'm thinking sticky as just like it's always there, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
Kind of like as I move the browser window, it just kind of stays fixed left. But maybe I could say fixed instead of sticky, because usually sticky, to your point, refers to the top nav or like a sticky element on the bottom.
Yeah.
Maybe we could just say I'd like a left panel.
Yeah. Yep.
Sweet. Anything else, or should we just
go for it? Yeah.
All right.
I feel like each time we prompt any chatbot, you're like playing some sort of slot machine game.
Yeah, totally. Bar. Nice, jackpot. So this is a thing that I kind of liked about, it was a different experience, I think, using Claude, because I think it went straight to opening up the artifact UI and then started writing code, would generate all the code that we needed, and then it would describe it. And I kind of like how, in this case, it tells me what it's going to do before it does it. So here, without reading too far into this, I'm going to assume that it has rewritten. Oh, it actually did not rewrite the entire HTML. It started with the body tag, right? So if I go back to our source. I need to know, and this is where I think it would be really nice in a subsequent episode for us to try a LLM that's built into the IDE, like Copilot or one of the plugins that pulls ChatGPT directly in here, because we need to be reading a little bit more carefully where exactly it's modifying the code here, which is a little bit of a downer. But I have pretty good success getting it to do what I want sometimes. So we'll see what we get.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
it's modified. Maybe we could just skim this a little bit and see that there is indeed a table that it's added. It's given us an aside element. That's cool. Again, I've never used this semantic HTML element. So I'm learning for the first time that aside even exists. That's kind of fun. And we've got a table in there with our date, category, and wind speed. And oh, this is super cool. I was hoping that it was going to do this. We didn't prompt it. It's using for table body ID hurricane rows, and these rows are populated with a JavaScript. And this is exactly what I was hoping. I hope this works, because if it does, then we have only to go to the script.js and modify this data to update both the map and the new table that it's hopefully added into our left panel here.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's cool. It looks like it did modify the CSS to give us some new styles for the left panel, which makes sense. I'm glad that we thought to put that in there. And then in our JavaScript, let's see, it says reference to the table body, the Hurricane Rose suite for populating the table. Cool. So that's pretty short and sweet. It doesn't say where to put this stuff. But I usually will chuck this stuff at the bottom in terms of an update it to the JavaScript if it hasn't rewritten the entire file.
Right.
I'll try copy pasting this and putting this at the bottom of the document just to see if that works first.
Yeah. Could you bump up the fonts maybe once or twice on this?
Oh, totally. Good call.
Yeah.
Let's see. Command plus. That is not working. Zoom in. How's that?
Yeah, I think that's good. That's good.
A little bit better? Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. So what I'm going to do here really quick is just copy this code here. I'm going to go back to our index.html and really quickly just highlight the body element that we had before that ChatGPT gave us. And I'm pretty sure this is all we need to do, because I think the main add here was putting in this this new aside element in the HTML we already had. So I'm going to save that and then go back to ChatGPT, copy the code for these styles. And I'm pretty sure content wrapper, let's just really quickly look at the HTML again and see where it put content wrapper. I don't remember, if I'll be honest, if like this existed in the first iteration, but we could see really quick in our styles.css. Okay, so that was there. This might get a little weird because, this is a new session. I'm not sure what of this existed before. So what I'm going to do is just copy and chuck this onto the bottom for now. This is going to be really messy, but I just really want to see first and foremost if this worked. And by putting this at the bottom of our CSS, these new rules are going to override the old ones. Again, pretty hack and slashy, but the spirit of this is rapid prototyping, not making clean code. And I think in a subsequent episode, when we have this in our IDE directly, we'll see if this kind of makes it a little easier for us to copy and replace some code. So in this last one, this is all net new. I'm pretty sure it's added this new variable for Hurricane Rose and our new way to pop the data into the table. So again, I'm going to copy this, go to script.js, go all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to pop this in. This is the marker position. I'm not sure exactly what this is closing, actually. So I'm going to put
Seems like the slider. No? Oh, no.
I think
That's
you're right.
Yeah, based on that bar highlighting. Yeah.
There we go. Yep.
I mean,
I
I
like it.
guess either way, like it'll probably work either way because you.
Well, we'll find out.
Cool.
One of the nice things about this approach is if we go to our browser and we open up the console, we'll be able to see right away if something doesn't work right. So let's make this responsive. And really quickly, I know I did it already. I'm just going to save all these things again. And what are your how lucky are you feeling? What's your guess as to whether or not this is going to work?
Not having read through the crack, I assume that it should work because we gave it the files as context. So, and the files are relatively small. So there should be some left panel on the screen when we refresh.
I like it. I agree. I did some really dirty things with the CSS, popping just those rules in the bottom, and I'm sure there's going to be some rule clash. But I'm feeling lucky. So let's refresh, and
Nice.
that's cool. So we've got Hurricane Tracker twice, which I don't super like. I would like this to be the name of the hurricane, but I don't think that there was actually a name specified in the original
Mm-hmm.
JSON object that we had. So
Mm-hmm.
we can either modify this manually or update this in the data. But this is really cool. I love that we have a table here, and it looks like these correspond to the number of points that we've got on our path.
Yeah. So, like, is this? Let me see. This is chronological, right? So the top one is at the earliest. So the first point corresponds. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And then like, well, the thing that it's doing is also like the left panel is fixed right now. So as you zoom around the map, the panel stays, right? So that's
Yep, it did make it fixed like we specified. Is that what you're saying? Where you're kind of expecting this to remain
mm-hmm.
fixed, and it looks like it did it right.
Yeah.
So that's cool. It does look like we might need to do some finessing with the timestamps here, because this one starts on 9/12. This one
Mm-hmm.
here starts on 9/11. And if we slide this all to the end, the last point here is September 18th at 11 p.m. and this one ends at, so it might be doing some rounding here with the dates, but it looks like, just sort of eyeballing this, that this has the same
Mm-hmm.
number of points here, and the last one and the start are both H1, and our fourth to last here is the H5. So this looks like it's pulling from the same JSON object for both the points here
Mm-hmm.
along this polyline and what's populated in the table.
Nice. Nice.
So I'd say, just for one prompt, this to me feels like mission accomplished. I really like that it's got the vast majority of what we asked for here, and it looks like the data is correct. One thing we can do just to sort of verify one thing really quick is for this one H5, it says it's 150 knots is the wind speed, and cool, we see that it is indeed pulling 135, the same data for each point, which I like.
Nice. So were there more features? Was this the main thing that you wanted to add to it today?
This is the main thing I was hoping to add to it. However, I did call this out in the first episode where we were hacking on this storm tracker concept. This is a really good example, I feel, of an LLM hallucination where it just made up this categorization scheme of H something. This does not exist. It seems to me, if you go to Noah, the categorization scheme. Oh, actually, I take it back. Category H4. I was looking at other websites that were calling these cat 1 through 5,
Mm-hmm.
but I am eating my words here. I thought that this was actually something that it made up, and
Mm-hmm.
it looks like this is what Noah is using. So I feel good about that. What I was going to say is that maybe we can actually adjust this to change it from H to cat, but let's go with Noah. They know more than I do about hurricanes.
At some point, we start thinking that we're hallucinating instead of the LLMs.
Oh my gosh, totally. Wow, that's cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. That's cool. I think this could be further iterations where like I think as you're highlighting on the map, the sidebar is also indicating some
Ooh,
visualization changes, right?
yes. I love that
So
idea. That's an awesome feature because, yeah, to your point, which one of these points, which row corresponds to the point that we're
yeah.
clicking on? I think it'd be really cool if as you click on one of these, the table row highlights, or
Hmm.
vice versa. I can click on a table row and that point on the map highlights.
Yeah,
Yeah. Can we see if ChatGPT can help us code that?
let's do it.
All right.
Now, I guess like thanks. Looks great.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I like giving it some feedback when it did the thing right because at least it knows
Yeah.
that everything works and now we're moving on to the next thing. So thanks. This works. Great. Now we'd like to add functionality such that when I click on a table row, the corresponding point on the map is highlighted and its tooltip is displayed. Um, Vice versa, when I click on a point on the map, the uh, table row corresponding table row is highlighted. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. Seems
All
simple
right.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah, we gave it feedback. Cool. Let's do it. Let's see what happens. I'm going to try to edit a little bit less than we did the first couple episodes because I feel like that kind of mimics the flow that I tend to get into when doing this type of work with ChatGPT. I won't spend as much time as we have been scrutinizing it and just kind of see what we get. Maybe that's to my detriment because it doesn't always give me back what I want. But it's also
Do you mean editing the prompt or
yes, exactly. Editing the
okay.
prompt.
Yeah.
I think I'll do a little bit of an editorial pass, but I know we've been workshopping these prompts quite heavily before we submit. Um, I feel like often when I'm just trying to hack and slash on a concept like this, I'll Hail Mary my prototypes a little bit more, my prompts.
Yeah, it's just
Um,
a slot machine. But I feel like the part of the what's interesting here is like we're also talking through what we're thinking about as we're
mm,
prompting, which is
yeah, that's true.
what I feel like that's actually the value part of kind of these exercises, right? It's like what are we thinking about when we're prompting these LLMs?
Yeah, it's really tricky, I think, to get the right level of specificity without being, too prescriptive, misdirecting it in some ways. I feel like I do that a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's see. This should be done by now. We've got modifications first to our script.js to highlight the corresponding table row and then highlight the corresponding map point. So it looks like it at least understood what we wanted. Um, this looks to me, without reading this super carefully, highlight Hurricane Rose container. I think this is all net new code. Usually, when it says it's modifying something, it will function to add a new table row. I think this is all copy pastable. Add a CSS class. That's funny. There's a comment here
Hmm.
with no code under it. Huh.
Cool.
Yeah. So maybe this comment here was actually meant for this. So we've got a new style here for our highlight. And there's no modifications to the HTML, which is kind of cool.
Hmm.
So let's do this. Let's grab everything here. I'm going to assume that this is all net new code.
Hmm.
It says updated code, but I think this is all new. So let's go here, just like we did before, pop this in the bottom. I'm going to kill that comment because it doesn't mean anything. And then we're going to take the new class for our highlight, copy this, pop that into the bottom of our CSS, and save both. And let's see what happens. So we got our console open. No errors last time too. That's kind of cool. Whoa. So it gave us lots more data. That's interesting. However, the highlight seems to be working.
Well, now that the functionality works, if you click on the table to see if it highlights the items in the.
That's where we run into some trouble.
Interesting.
So the reverse functionality is not working. However, yeah, there's definitely a bug here because when I click on these rows, it's added an extra set of rows.
Well, I guess, yeah. Let's just tell it to fix it.
Yeah.
Again, I started thinking about like, oh, what would I think it is? No, I'm just gonna like, hey, ChatGPT, this is what I'm saying, fix it.
Yeah, I like that. So to describe what we're seeing is it's duplicated our table data. Because it looks like, yeah, it starts with an H1,
right?
It strengthens and weakens, and then it just duplicates the data set. So I think we can tell ChatGPT the highlight functionality is working both from the table and from the map to highlight the corresponding points on map or table. However, the table data is duplicated
On the panel.
On the left panel. Yeah. Such that it's showing twice as many rows as it should.
I would say it's showing the same table below the last row.
Yeah, such that it's showing the same table rows twice.
No, because then you can interpret that as like interspersing versus like showing the entire table once again at the bottom.
Showing the same table once again below the original table.
Yeah.
Okay. We've described the problem. Have we described the solution enough?
No, just how to. You don't want it to shoot. I guess I wonder at this point, like, yeah.
Set of rows.
Yeah, I think like even if you didn't include it, I think it would be able to like infer that you don't want it to be duplicated.
Yes. Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
We'll see if ChatGPT gets the hint. Please fix. The issue of duplicated table rows arises because the table rows are being appended to the left panel multiple times, likely the for each loop. That's cool. All right.
Cool. So I knew they had to fix it.
It thinks it knows how to fix it.
Or it knows that it needs to do something about it, that this is not okay.
Yes. Before populating the table, ensure that you clear any existing rows, update the script.js as below, populate the table with data. So here, populate table, clear any existing rows. It does not say again where to add this.
You can ask
Let
it.
me check.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to use search in the IDE, populate the table. We've got a function to do that. So you're right, though. We could just say, can you tell me where to insert this in the JavaScript? Or can you rewrite the entire JavaScript with this change?
Yep.
Initialize the map. Nice. Cool. I have a hunch this is going to be so much faster and smoother when we pull this directly into the IDE next time. I'm excited to try that.
Yeah.
because this takes extra time too. So I'm excited to see just it spot shot the changes that need to be made in the context of where the change happened.
Yeah.
This reminds me of kind of like reviewing Git commits and trying to like eyeball where something broke.
Yeah, it's really hard because at this point, if you know exactly where to insert the code, you're almost like writing it yourself. I feel like it requires like enough understanding to know what's happening. And at this point, it's like I'm on the fence about how how this makes things like somewhat difficult. Is that I don't really understand like the code, but also feel like maybe I don't need to. But when you get into like instances like this where like the L1 doesn't return all the code you need, so now you're just hunting and pecking around.
Totally. Yeah. This is this exact, state that we're in right here. I feel like we're kind of bordering on the path of diminishing returns here because it looks like I refreshed and there's another bug that I'm seeing where our polyline is no longer here.
Right.
And we lost our hurricane. our hurricanes. And I don't remember exactly when that went away.
Yeah.
But we do have one set of table rows here that is giving us the interaction that we wanted. So I do feel like maybe this is the point at which I might call this, or we could say maybe to round out this set of modifications to see if it can bring back the polyline and the hurricane icon, because the rest of this is working great. I feel like we got exactly what we wanted.
Yep. Does it work it the other way if you click on the map? Nice.
Does indeed.
Yeah. Let's round it out. See if we can just like get it back to like an equally better state rather than a trade-off of like new stuff and old stuff.
Yeah, we got some new stuff, but we sacrificed some things that we wanted at the beginning of the episode. I love it. Okay, so let's go back, shall we, and say, great. This is working perfectly, except we no longer see the polyline or our hurricane .svg icon, which controlled by the slider.
Yeah.
Please add back both. I love this, by the way. I feel like every time I run into an issue and I say, hey, there's a problem here, it always acknowledges that it made a mistake. Whether or not it actually is successful in correcting the mistake, it's like it starts off by saying, you know what, you're absolutely right. I should have done better. I feel so heard when working with ChatGPT as a pair programmer.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's affirming your feelings because the LLM, I assume it doesn't have any feelings, right? So it's easy for it to admit that it's wrong.
Totally. This one's going to take a minute. It's got a lot to add. Summary of changes. It's giving me such positive reinforcement that it's heard me, right? Like, yes, okay, I gave you back your polyline and your hurricane icon. Should be happy. Yep. Slider updates. Okay, cool. So I'm going to do this and just go back up to the top and make sure that we're starting with initialize the map. I'm going to copy and replace the whole thing. I did get a little scared here because the bottom of this is not exactly what I saw the last time, but I see populate table is called here up a little bit. Right. So again, I'm just going to save and refresh, and boom, our polyline is back. We still have the left panel highlighting the map. We have the reverse working, and we've got our hurricane SVG. I'm going to grab it. The spinning no longer works. My wow factor feature of the day.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
spinning. So if I
Yeah.
was the stakeholder here, I would reject this immediately. But everything else is working. So I'm 99% happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, this is so this is funny. It's great that we got it to this place. I feel like the next thing I want to do is like have like some sort of like acceptance testing and like UI testing framework so that
Mm.
you can just make sure the system doesn't remove stuff that you don't want over time.
Totally. This is where I think, we've been sort of hacking and slashing these last few episodes together, I think just to demonstrate the capabilities that designers now have, PMs, really anyone outside of the core technical engineering team, to put together these rich types of prototypes very quickly. Things that I think before, would have required the investment of engineering time to play out some of these ideas. And certainly some tools that we have, like static clickable prototypes, cannot create interactions like this very easily, if at all.
Mhm. Yep.
So I think, I still see success and promise in doing this for certain types of um, either vision painting or concepts that I want to test with full fidelity or close to it. But as we saw, we got into a few points where we're not sure exactly how to edit what it gave us. It gave us a lot of reading to do. So I'm optimistic if we scaffold this such that we're using an LLM directly where we're writing this code. You made the point earlier that you don't fully understand it, neither do I, exactly in terms of the code that it's giving us, but just enough to be able to have a little bit more confidence that it's not going to deprecate functionality as we build out this vision.
Yeah. Yeah, I know we should probably wrap up this episode soon now that we have it back into a good state. Um, one thing that I would do, I think like maybe like in future sessions, we could probably either ask it to again like start with the files that we have, start a new chat,
Mm.
ask it to potentially like refactor it so to simplify it. And then the other thing that we could do to like understand the code a bit more is also just like once we feed the files, have it explain or like add more comments into each of the different files to explain what's happening to us.
Love it. And because it's going to bother me to no end, just because we couldn't get exact feature parity with what we had before, I'm going to give this one more prompt just to see if we can get the spinning hurricane back.
Mhm. Yep. Cool.
So everything is working perfectly except the hurricane icon is not spinning corresponding to the strength of the hurricane as I drag the time slider back and forth. Please correct. And of course, it's going to say, you're right. It's not spinning. Let's fix that. Here's how we can fix this. Maybe it just scrubbed that. I've had this happen before where it just,
Yeah.
there we go. I think this original function that we had
Mm.
may not have been in there. Let me take a
Is
quick peek while it's generating. Spin is not in here.
yeah.
So I think this just got lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
So
Is
let's
it
see.
rewriting the whole file also, or is it?
CSS updates. So we had this CSS in here already. Again, I'm just going to do something really kind of cringily bad and put this at the bottom again. I just want to see if this works. And it did not rewrite the entire file. It just added this bit here. So to your point, let's really quickly say, please rewrite the entire file, JavaScript file, script file with these changes to add back the spinner functionality. And I promise this will be our closing prompt. Rapid prototyping, not rabbit hole prototyping.
Yeah. I think the back and forth, I think is also part of the challenge of like not working with an IDE. It's like as good as ChatGPT is for a lot of stuff,
Yep.
generating code and like having the right context and not overriding and like dropping stuff is part of like the thing that we trade off by doing it this way.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. As an educational tool, I still love that this teaches me so much every time I use it about new methods, things that I wouldn't have been able to prototype on my own. Um, it's a great teaching tool in that way.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. So we got our whole file, copy, paste. Let's hope we don't get any other deprecated features. It looks like our tooltips are still working. Our highlight functionality is working. And I see that spin. It's working. And it should go faster here. Nice. So we got back to feature parity with what we had before. Taking a step back, I'm really pleased with where we got. I love that the core thesis that we brought to this episode of being able to have one set of data that's in our JavaScript power multiple things in our prototype here. I think works. We just have this one really simple, nice, and neat object that we can update, and that it's going to power both of these things. This is another thing that I feel like I run into a lot, especially with data products, where I'm trying to put together a realistic prototype to test. And this might resonate with you and people watching, where the data is not realistic enough to be fully bought by the user to look and feel real. It's like just real enough to have some cognitive dissonance get thrown in there, and this makes it much easier to sort of set up realistic scenarios when you want to bring something and have it tested.
Yeah, totally. And it's also like that's probably how it would work if it was built in some way, right? The data is powering both things. You wouldn't have like two different sets of data or fake data powering one thing and the other separately.
Totally. Yep. I think also reflecting on some of the drawbacks of this approach, we did get into a couple of moments where it felt like it wasn't exactly clear if this is going to work. I felt like I injected a little bit of more dirtiness in, even though this is still throwaway code, just by, slapping in, extra CSS rules at the bottom of the file. Maybe this is something that I could actually do to close out this session, later if I was going to carry this prototype on to say like, feed it this whole CSS file and say, please clean this up and remove duplicates. But I am really excited for the next episode where we just get this all into our code writing environment.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's the thing we'll explore next. But I'm glad that we were able to get here this time after, which feels like common. Like you get something the first shot, then as you keep going, stuff starts getting weird and then gets back to normal.
Totally. I mean, in a way, this is kind of like a little microcosm of the whole sort of design and development life cycle, right? Where you start off with something easy, you have high confidence that it's going to work, and the more things you add to it, the more risk you inject that you're going to deprecate functionality along the way. So, this may be getting at the point where it just sort of feels right to bookend and call this particular prototype a wrap. But it's been really fun to put this together this quickly.
Yeah. And again, like I think each time we do this, we spend a lot of time talking through it, but this probably would have been like, I don't know, 20 minutes instead, just like prompting the system.
Totally. Working on your own, I think it's a little bit faster just to sort of throw something at it. Although I do really like and appreciate the quality control that comes with being able to externalize something and craft it together.
Yeah. It's tri pairing, the two of us and then the LLM.
Exactly.
Cool. All right. Until next time. See you later.
Thanks so much.